Hello, and welcome back to Coin Lady channel. Let me start by saying how appreciative I am of attorney John Deaton's work on behalf of the entire XRP community and, in particular, the 76,000 or so XRP holders who opted to be represented by him. They have had and will have a significant effect on every pending SEC crypto litigation. This is not good for the SEC, I can assure you. Oh my, that's terrible news for the SEC. Since cryptocurrency exchange Gemini, with whom I am apparently merely friends for the time being because they listed XRP, I feel comfortable updating you on some recent developments in this area. In fact, I have no problem with that. That's right, I'm referring to the Winklevoss twins, or Winklevosses, as a collective noun. They've been against Ripple and XRP for so long that it's okay that it has gained some traction. That's lessening of tribalism, and I don't really care about people's feelings toward XRP at this point. Just know that I'm on board with it. For cryptography as a whole, that's good news. We're all friends with them, so it's safe to assume that's how it is between all of us. I bring this up, though, because in their fight against the SEC, they make reference to details from the SEC versus Ripple case. That's the proper move, in my opinion, and it's good for XRP. What happens in crypto networks is real and important, thus it's important to lend a hand and assist Gemini in any way you can. If enough people are complaining about it. Yes. Do you not know the old adage, the squeaky wheel gets the grease? That's not a made-up concept, man. You'll be responsible for oiling the cogs that aren't making any noise. That just doesn't make any logic at all. On this topic, I also have materials from attorney John Deaton. However, let there be some confusion beforehand. I come from no financial or legal background. Nothing I say should be taken as medical, legal, or financial advice, and you shouldn't make any purchases or sales based on what I say. Okay, I'm simply a fan that occasionally posts films to YouTube about crypto-related subjects for fun. Please consider this a friendly reminder. Whatever the case may be, Gemini's problems began at the start of this year. In a press statement published on January 12 of this year, the SEC's asset pricks charged Genesis and Gemini with engaging in an unregistered offer and sale of crypto asset securities via the Gemini Earn lending program. And by the way, as I go on and on in this video, you'll see that they're still up to the same old tricks that they were in the SEC versus Ripple case, tricks that didn't work. Then on May 29th, there was this massive headline. To refresh your memory, here's a quick recap. Gemini and bankrupt lender Genesis petitioned an American court to throw out an SEC lawsuit targeting earnings investigations. There we are, at the first day of January this year. And then, beginning in late May, Jim and I began actively working to have this case thrown out. This has not been decided as of yet. In other words, anything's possible, yet the likelihood of happening is low. One cannot say. The outcome of the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit did not affect the company. Gemini, a cryptocurrency exchange, has filed a new complaint against the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, regarding its Earn program. And again, even if you're not that enthused about Gemini, you might still have an account with them if you joined up for like every exchange known to man years ago, like I did. But even if you don't like Gemini, you probably don't hate it. Not at all what I meant. Do you see why I believe it's important us talking about this, and maybe kind of tracking this and providing some support here and being loud on social media and so on? If things go well for Gemini, that's fantastic for XRP. In its lawsuit against the crypto exchange Gemini's reward program, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission is being called out by Gemini's management. In addition, Gemini's attorney Jack Bowman writes at length that the SEC's action against the Earn program is illogical and contradictory because it allows consumers to earn interest by lending their digital assets to Genesis currency. Here is a passage from Gemini's most recent submission, which was only yesterday. Once again, this is an attempt to have the entire case dismissed. The SEC is at sea, it can't even agree on what kind of security it is. They argue, on the one hand, that the loan contract served as security. On the other hand, they argued that the Gemini Earn program was a security in and of itself, which seems ridiculous. The SEC's efforts to track down a sale are equally ridiculous. Instead, they always resort to this kind of argument. Interest payments were sold by Gemini, a Gemini, and Genesis in exchange for cryptocurrency. This is just untrue and, worse, laughable. Different from a sale is a loan. Words have to stand for something, to paraphrase, and I just can't help but laugh. I mean, I get the gravity of the issue, but even in the most dire of circumstances, there are times when you just have to giggle at the absurdity of it all. This is one of those times for me. After reading it, I was left wondering what it reminded me of. Since this is the SEC's line of defense, it occurs to me that Gemini and Genesis may have sold its promise to pay interest in exchange for crypto assets. It's the fact that XRP personifies the crow. Remember that BS argument, now known as the embodiment hypothesis, about how XRP, the asset of Ripple, personifies the promises and efforts of RIP? Gemini engineers didn't bother to fix their residence, as you can see. Oh my god, these jerks are so full of themselves that their haughtiness is oozing out. Don't worry, I'll remove it from your display. A gentleman's crypto law organization then provided us with the following excerpt. And I just want to call attention to this because it's Gemini. Calling attention to the SEC v RIP. Okay. I'm relieved to see that. In a fortunate turn of events, Ripple invested $200 million, and the company is now employing the proceeds to great effect. In their favor. About 76,000 people on our side of the XRP community alone make it the best of its kind in the cryptocurrency industry. That's good luck for a Gemini, I guess. They are improving, and so. That's why it's not totally unexpected that they listed XRP. The interest seems to be mutual at this stage. However, their work is presented below. Judge Torres similarly said in the recent Ripple ruling that, quote, under Howey, the court evaluates the economic reality and totality of facts surrounding the offers and sales of the underlying asset. You don't have to do anything, but everyone listening feels like they've made an impact here, unless they're just a small fly on the wall and aren't saying anything. What I mean is, it's great that we have such a large and active community. Overall, I see a lot of positives and think that's a good thing. We're still subjected to the same idiotic BS from the SEC, but at least XRP has come out on the other side of this ordeal. Still, everyone else will have to play catch up. But here's what John Deaton, an attorney, had to say about it. The SEC's enforcement director and other lawyers in the agency's legal division learned nothing from the Ripple case. Their haughtiness in the weight room is shocking, and when they ask me who I cheer for, I tell them, Cameron and Tyler State, of course, also the Winkle by, quote, the fact that the SEC cannot decide what is the security at issue only underscores the weakness of its position. It also doesn't adhere to the standards of fair notice and quote, which is a major issue. To put it another way, the SEC simply invents reasons. That, my friends, is the SEC's general strategy when it comes to litigating cryptocurrency issues. As we saw in the Ripple case, the SEC's arguments are completely transactional. It constantly changes its theory or viewpoint. Do you remember how the SEC's legal team insisted that everything in Hinman's speech was just his opinion and not intended as market guidance? But when the judge gives the go-ahead, I will comply. But since it was his own judgment and not official policy, you must provide up the correspondence concerning the address. The SEC said to the judge, wait, at the time of the speech, he was serving in his official role as director and had access to the Division of Corporation Finance's advice and counsel. In response to Judge Knepper's question, don't you agree with me that what you are now arguing is inconsistent with your earlier arguments? The SEC argued that the judge was mistaken and that there was no inconsistency. And this is why I just tweeted something about this to Attorney Deaton, and he replied with a little 100 emoji but or something to the effect of like, it's at the point here, where with how dishonest the SEC is, And all the bogus BS arguments that are making, it's just that because they think they can get away with it. Right. After all, the idea was, it's really. The case between the SEC and Ripple was definitely a failure for them. Reading replies from judges and different crypto instances gives me little confidence that it's working for them elsewhere. And it just seems to me that the SEC's arrogance is costing them in the courtroom. If this weren't the case, the judicial system may make more progress. It's their own arrogance that's causing them harm, even if they're only hurting themselves. They believe they can get away with it by convincing others to believe their lies. But how could a judge be that thick not to realize, as shown by the Hinman case study referenced here? The judge shifted their position to match the circumstances of the case. Deaton, the attorney, continues. Keep in mind how the SEC was initially, this is great. The flipped example can be found everywhere. You might probably recall that initially the SEC referred to Ripple as a common enterprise. After initially arguing that the shared business was a Ripple, the SEC later modified its position. However, the whole XRP ecosystem was affected, including all XRP holders, all XRP selling exchanges, all XRP using businesses and providers, etc. Later, the SEC disclaimed the entire XRP ecosystem. This is the agreement and the cost. However, the XRP token is the price guarantee in and of itself. The idea that anyone would believe this is ridiculous. This proves that the SEC is completely incompetent. They obviously don't, but they figured if they took 3 opposing views on what the hell XRP is, they'd fool the judge and come out on top. Actually, you didn't turn out the way you expected. In the beginning, Ripple was the entrance point, but eventually the entire ecosystem became the common enterprise. Then it claimed that XRP stands for the joint venture. What the actual F***ck is that? That's why they came up short. I'm glad they're so cocky and inept, since it's allowing them to make so many mistakes without trying. Well, let's hear more. From Attorney Deaton. Remember how the SEC said they never claimed XRP was a security since, at its core, it's just computer code? Later, they really contended that XRP reflected the promises of Ripple, represented the investment contract, and stood in for the firm as a whole. Do you see the absurdity of this argument? While the SEC denied that XRP was a security, it did contend that it met the second and third requirements of the Howey test, which is another way of arguing that XRP is a security. Cue the facepalm emoji. Good use of the facepalm emoji there. Absolutely. A federal judge criticized the SEC for its hypocrisy in the Ripple case because it was so awful. By the way, that was a quote, and they were saying that their lawyers are hypocritical and will say anything to further their case, no matter how at odds it is with what they have said in the past. As a side note, that was the biggest smackdown of the entire case, delivered by Judge Nepper, who ruled that the SEC lacks loyal allegiance to the law. And when that occurred, all I can think about is how my jaw dropped. In a word, yeah. And that was one of those times when I thought to myself, me thinks that this is a good sign for XRP holders, B thinks this is practice they're seeing through the SEC versus are not falling through this BS arguments, meaning that they're going to see that the arguments of XRP are just as ridiculous. And so, whether or not, I took that as an indicative of what they were thinking. After all, you can't read minds, but still, if they're going that far, it's worth considering. This is not something a judge often says to a plaintiff or, for that matter, an attorney. That's incredible. That's how far the SEC's lawyers are willing to go to avoid liability. And then Deaton's attorney, saying, in my opinion, it doesn't bother Gary Gensler or Gerber Group, ends the conversation. A member of the SEC, I see. What was his name again? And X isn't even mentioned in his Twitter bio. Twitter is now called X. However, he is one of the more valuable assets. In any case, I don't think it's a problem for Gerber Gruel assets, Gary Gins, or Ten Raro. That would be one of the attorneys in the SEC Ripple case, about whom the judge remarked something like, "You are being unfaithful to the law or you are a hypocrite." The fact that they swore an oath to respect it doesn't concern them since they consider the judge and the law to be beneath them. That's an absolutely accurate description. They consider themselves superior to the court system and the law. Oh, and this one, I did answer. It was this that I was thinking about, only a few minutes ago. What I wrote is presented in its entirety below. The SEC's dishonesty, as I explained in a letter to John Deaton in response to his comments, is a major factor in the SEC's catastrophic loss in the SEC versus Ripple litigation. In my opinion, their haughtiness has cost them dearly in court. They have an inflated sense of self-importance. They have a false sense of invincibility. They are immune to punishment. But they're not getting anywhere with this, and it's hurting them. This is okay with me. So long as they keep acting this way, we'll be fine. Is anyone going to be fooled by this? You can't possibly let an idiot decide whether or not my God is right. No, I don't give out financial advice. Nothing I say should be used as a basis for a purchase or sale. Please like and subscribe my channel. See you in the next one, bye.